Gervonta Davis has the advantage. Ryan Garcia has no rematch guarantee. What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Cardinal Red Sports. Let's talk about it. Alright, so news is coming out about the contract between Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Tank Davis. And if you guys remember, this has been, not as bad as the Terence Crawford, Errol Spence situation, but it's been a tense negotiation between those two guys. And this fight has taken a little while to actually come to fruition, but they finally got it done. But Gervonta Davis recently gave an interview and he spoke about some of the things in the contract, some of the things that Ryan Garcia agreed to, and he actually chuckled about, some of the terms in the contract. He said that Ryan Garcia seemed a little desperate to make the fight, and he was willing to agree to any and everything that Gervonta Davis put forward as the A side. So Davis seems pretty confident on his victory based off of the contract negotiation. But there were some things that were cited within the contract that I wanted to make light of that I think were pretty interesting. So Ryan Garcia, if he wins, Gervonta Davis gets to activate an automatic rematch clause, which is great. He's the A side. You would think that if he lost, he should get at least a shot at a rematch. Me personally, I think it depends on how he loses. If he gets knocked out by Ryan Garcia, knocked out cold early, there's really not a need for a rematch. But if he can make it, through the fight and Ryan Garcia scores a late knockout, then most definitely you would think that he deserves a rematch in that. Okay, so that's cool, and I think that's pretty much standard for a superstar of the caliber of Gervonta Davis. And I think that, just the fact that he's had so many good knockouts recently and good fights recently, you would think that he's going to be granted that rematch clause just off the fact that he is the A side. So he's had the better fights out of those two guys. Deserves to be the A side. So, okay, now there's that portion of the contract. But then you got to wonder, okay, so what about Ryan Garcia's side? Ryan Garcia doesn't get an automatic rematch. As a matter of fact, there wasn't even a rematch mentioned for Ryan Garcia. If Ryan Garcia loses, it's one and done. Gervonta Davis is going to move on. Now, I would suspect that if this is a really, really good fight and it goes down to the wire, and let's say Gervonta Davis wins by like a half a point or a point, or scores a knockdown or a knockout late within the fight, you would have suspected the fans would call for a rematch. But it's not guaranteed and it's not automatic on the behalf of Ryan Garcia. But I would think if it comes down to those circumstances, then the fans would demand it and it would have to happen. Besides that, there are no guarantees for Ryan Garcia and his side other than hoping that they win the first fight, because the first fight will guarantee them something in the second fight. Now, who can take something away from that and learn something? I think there's one fighter who can really learn something from that, and that is Terence Crawford, and it's all because of the Errol Spence situation. Now, if you remember, it was Bud who was demanding all type of stuff within the contract and the negotiation. It was never Errol Spence not sending a contract or a revised contract or trying to make the fight. It was all Bud Crawford not agreeing to things that were already in the contract and just seeing the bigger picture for what it is. I think because Ryan Garcia has Oscar, he has Bernard, he has all the other figureheads at Golden Boy Sports and Golden Boy Promotions, they can steer him in the right direction and let him know that, yeah, you're not going to win big when it comes to the first fight, but if you win, that's where you're going to see the majority of your money. So you might as well just agree to whatever, win the fight, and then get your paycheck in the second fight. Now, what if he loses? You know, if he loses badly, you know, like gets knocked out in the 5th or 6th round, then I think he should move on anyway. I think there are other fights out there that he can make. I would love to see him fight George Kambosos, maybe even Vasil, depending on if Vasil wins against Devin Haney. You know, those would be interesting matchups. He can build himself up a little bit more, and then in a year or so, he can come back and try to get Gervonta if he's still in the division. If not, then both of those guys will most likely meet at 140 anyway, and that'll make it a little more interesting. Is Ryan Garcia better at 140 than he is at 135 because he doesn't have to cut any weight? So all interesting things, but really I think Terence Crawford could learn a thing or two from Ryan Garcia and his willingness to agree to the terms and see the bigger picture for what it is. The rematch is where I'm going to score big because I'm not the A side, and as long as I can get through the first fight, then there's no reason why I can't get big dollar signs in the second fight. And the fact that he brings in such a big audience, you know, him having that Instagram following, is another thing on Ryan Garcia's side. I don't think he's ever going to be not popular in the sport of boxing, even if he loses to Tank Davis. So all of that, Terence Crawford could learn a thing or two. Ryan Garcia doesn't have a guarantee. Terence Crawford could definitely learn from what those two guys have agreed to and come to grips with. You know, it is what it is. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all that down in the comment section below. That like button for me, share, subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. More than likely to get a response on the tube, so holler at me over there. If you want to collabo, hit my Gmail, flockofcards@gmail.com, and we are Manny.
I always bragged I would get her when I seen her out in front of the crib, looking like she lost her will to live. All rusty, holes in her shoes, glasses busted, getting caught in the rain, had a musty. Sky on her side, her last new jumper, dents in her bumper. She couldn't even ride until I confronted her. I wasn't tripping though, spinning dough round the way they thought it was a miracle. How you went from the chick with the cassette stereo to riding by having haters like there she go, leaving the whole block disrupted. When I let my baby take off a top in public, by my chick was not a discussion, not even for $1 million. Now if you feel me, holler. I got an old school chick, an old school ride with the stripes down the middle and the chrome on the side. Then rear view shaking, got them 6x9s. That's my chick. I got an old school ride, got an old school chick, an old school ride with the stripes down the middle and the chrome on the side. Then rear view shaking, got them 6x9s. That's my chick. I got an old school ride, OG.
I got ice on my rear view mirror like it was dice in my old school Plymouth. Got 12.